There we go. Alright, we got another 15-2 game. Let's try D4 as a start. Yeah. Okay, so 15-2 game. Aha. The Dutch. Okay. Knight F3 or C4. I'll go with C4. Sometimes there's a reason to go with the Knight H3. Knight H3 to F4. I've seen stuff like that before. I might want to go with Bishop G2, G3 Bishop G2. Sometimes there's a reason to not go forward with Knight C3 to avoid Bishop B4 pins. So I'm going to hold off on this. And I'm going to get on this diagonal before black gets on it. That's the big plan. Okay. Well, I don't have to worry about Bishop B4. The bishop's going here, so these two moves are probably interchangeable. Doesn't really matter. Bishop G2, Knight C3. And typing things. Okay. So Bishop G2 or Knight G3. I'll go with this. Not that it really matters. I'm probably going to go here no matter what anyhow. So I'll retain some options with my knight. I'm not so sure where he belongs. In fact, I pointed out F3, H3. There's even E2. Bishop here. This pawn eventually coming up. And then knight to E2 just to stay clear of this diagonal. So I should probably get on it right away. Yeah. Alrighty. I have queen checks here. Sometimes you'd see a computer do that. So should I play like a computer? We'll see. To like provoke something, but I'm never quite sure what the big story is with that. Like it C3 or C6, I don't know how to really exploit that. Or if I could see something like if the bishop played here, then that's a problem because queen B3, and then there's an issue with B7. But okay, let's see. Knight H3. I'm wondering. All right, so this is really the first moment where I have to do some thinking, because I want to see what would be an efficient way to complete development here. I don't know if my bishop really wants to come outside of the pawn chain. For example, playing to F4, he's a bit vulnerable to E5 pushes, and I don't want that to happen with tempo, and that would be the exact case if he comes to F4. And G5, I don't think he'll survive long on that square. He'll be questioned quickly. So having said that, I think I'm going to go with E3 and Knight E2 and go with my bishop. I guess do a double fianchetto. Let's see. Queen A4? After the game, I'm going to do something a little bit different than last time. I'm going to have some computer help, so we'll get to see what Stockfish has to say about this game. Won't miss out on any tactics. So, what about E4? Wait a second. Why am I not considering E4 at all? I could play that. However, do I want to open up this diagonal a bit for the bishop and this file for the rook? Not so sure about that. E4 takes, bishop here. After castles, if I move my knight, there's going to be bishop H3. That's a bit odd, or a bit awkward for my development, so I don't think that's a good idea. Let's go with E3. Spent enough time on that move. So, pretty much going to go here no matter what next. We'll see what black does. Probably castles is best just to remain flexible. Queen b3 might be interesting. One of the main drawbacks with the Dutch is the weakening of the diagonal as well as the 7th rank, since this guy is no longer on his home square. Two things that are potentially weakening for black. So a queen on b3 hits at this, and there's a c5 discovered check, but I don't know how great that really is. What would black do on queen b3? I wonder. Queen b3, like I maybe even consider switching up move order like c5 first, but I don't know about that. c5 and if takes, then queen b3. Or even takes on b7 and then queen b3. Or should I just go with something very normal like knight to e2? Is there a reason to still delay his development? To be a little bit careful about my c4 pawn, but you know what? Black's not going to do anything against this point until c6 is played. I imagine c6 is not long off. I am actually quite tempted to try this queen b3. I'm gonna give it a shot. Pretty aggressive. Direct punch at b7. Looking for c5 exchange, and maybe after this check, flushing the king to the corner. After this exchange, I'll of course not have to worry at all about an e5 break at my d4 point. If I could exchange off my c pawn for this d pawn, in other words. And here's another thing. After c5, if d5, well, I'm a bit more inclined to deploy my knight to f3, since e5 would be weakened. I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to get this in. If he goes to the corner, well, this is looking much more long-term, but he's that much further away in a more simplified ending, so we'll see. Gonna have to do something. This is definitely not the way to go. I could say that much, because it blocks in the bishop. I'll gain access to the e5 square. I'll be taking here, queen recapture, and then a very smooth knight f3. My biggest concern at this point, piecewise, is my queen bishop. These guys are all in his way. Shouldn't have problems with any of my other pieces, and as far as time is concerned, I don't think there's a big time issue. Development-wise, I need 1, 2, 3 more moves before I am fully developed, before my rooks are in direct contact. And black needs a few more moves as well, so I have a good presence in the center. I have a clear diagonal. I have this knight under control, which is nice. I control him. He's not so easily activated, and because of that, his bishop won't be so quick to see the world. Okay. I think I have to follow through here. Yeah, let's do that. Here's another thing. You know what? I'm seeing some tricks with. I definitely. Let me emphasize this. I definitely want to put my knight on f3. Now, for sure. Because even if e5 is defended, there's already ideas tied in with my queen's placement on b3. So knight, let's just get there right away. Under 10 minutes. So knight g5 starts to maybe be a bit scary, and on top of that, a knight on g5 may not be so easily kicked. Since the king is now in the corner on this h-file, knight g5, if h6, I could think about h4 ideas. Maybe. With discovered tricks. Takes on g5, I recapture, the knight would have to block on h5 or h7. He's still my biggest concern, piecewise. Sometimes just having one poorly placed piece could spell some trouble for your whole team, really. So offering a queen exchange, normally I'm a big fan of that, but I don't think so here. For one, I don't want to allow him to have double isolated pawns. Excuse me, I don't want black to saddle me with double isolated pawns. And I don't want to capture and help out the rook, so... I wonder. I'm gonna avoid that exchange. Go here, watch over e4, make sure I could get castled. Maybe this queen is, could she be a little bit of a bug? I don't know about that. She's probably going in the wrong direction doing that. I'm gonna castle next move. On queen a6, I could think about queen exchange still, but under a situation where I'm not helping out a rook. Who would be better in a queenless position? I'm not so sure. I still like having this e3 and d4 structure. It functions well to limit the bishop's mobility. I might want to even consider some knight maneuver, but this is more into the more long-term maneuver. I think I should get on with the moves I know I need to make. And one of those is castling. A reason to not castle, a reason to stop knight b4. I'm not so sure about that. Let's get castled. They're castled. They're one move away from completing their development. I want to bring it to a point where I'm one move away. On knight b4, knight b4, probably queen e2. That seems most natural. My initial thought was knight b4, queen b3. But then knight here could be a bit of a bug. I don't know that I want to allow knight for bishop exchange, although this bishop's not so great. So yeah, that's my quick plan here. I'm trying to keep up a little bit more with the clock. The first, last week's game, the other 15-2 game, I was living off of the increment, and many of you in the comments were saying that I was playing calmly, but it was not fun, and I was not calm. It was not a fun experience to be living off of increment. So, let's see. I could do this, but the bishop will probably advance. Let's try and stay on top of the clock is what I'm getting at here. What about queen e2? Oh, you know what's maybe being prepped here? Knight here. I might want to get this tempo in. That could be a bit annoying, actually. Knight here, bishop c4, I move my rook, and then knight b4 into here. That starts to become a bit awkward, for sure. I think I want to stop knight d5. How are we looking pawn break-wise? Like, if c5 is played, can I get this move in? I can, but only after knight d2. I'll have enough support to meet a c5 push with this. I don't want to allow this knight to move so easily. I think that would be a favorable exchange. Knight d5 takes, the bishop is opposite here. I don't really like that. Knight d2, gotta make a move. Knight d2, knight b4, queen b1, and then maybe queen a6. The knight's going to be sneaking in here. Not really liking my position. Oh, you know what? I could do a3, and on knight d5 I could play knight g5. And on knight takes knight I could take the bishop. I like that much better. There we go. You know, that happens a lot. I was giving a lot of thought to some backward move or just some move in general, and then I come up with, then I come up with some move that I've given very little thought to, and then just pull the trigger on it quickly. It keeps the knight out of my position with tempo, so there's something to be said for that, maybe. Although, you know what, I was saying on knight d5, knight g5, but what about bishop f4, bishop c4 first, and after my rook moves only then knight here? I might have some tricks, though. Knight a4 hits the queen and this bishop. Ooh, there's bishop here as well. Why was I not considering that? I don't think there's much to fear, though. I could be gaining tempo on these, whether it's a queen or a bishop that arrives on b3 or c4, I could be kicking them away with knight d2. Something I may want to do anyhow, just to unmask this bishop. We're both in a similar situation here on the king side. Some symmetry here with our king side minor pieces. I think both of us would really like to have our knights move, our king knights move, so the bishops can see. So he's under control. What about knight c7 to here? This queen is maybe a bit awkwardly placed then. She might run the risk of getting trapped. I thought you might do that. So, queen exchange. I usually like them. Queen takes, bishop takes. He's a bit of a bug. I could kick him away, though. If I go queen e2, bishop c4, don't like that. Let's see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to exchange queens, knight d2, and after the bishop moves, I'm going to play b4. And then rook b1, looking for some minority break. Alright, there go the queens. There go the queens, and let's make sure this little bugger is out of here. He's stopping my big plan here to play b4. Yes, I called him a bugger. He's a bishop, and he's annoying. He's stopping what I want to do, so he needs to find a new home. Where will his new home be? So now this knight, not so easy to move him. b4, I should probably throw that out there real quick. Tactically vulnerable? Well, hang on. I was thinking this move might be a pain, but black has some concern over their b7 pawn. You can't do that so easily. I was concerned for a moment about when I played this move that my knight might be tactically vulnerable. He's now unprotected. And now I want to make sure I'm in a position to do what? To meet a5 with b5. They're going to get a knight in here. Can't really do much about it. Alright, I'm going to do this. On knight here, on this knight playing here, I might actually move knight e2. Just so what? So they continually step on one another? I don't want to exchange. I think it'd be helpful to black if I exchange a pair of knights. On knight d5, could I play knight e2? It seems super slow. In fact, on this knight to d5, knight e2, a5 could be played, and that's a giant pain. There's also tricks with the knight just getting into this square. I think I have to start calculating tactics. Yeah. I need to start calculating tactics here. On knight e2, a5, I think I'll need to take and have stuff against b7 or knight c4 to d6. Okay. It's going to start to get crazy town, I think. Let's shoot for this one. Knight e2. Less than 5, so they got about 3 minutes on me. Gotta step it up a bit. Avoid these exchanges. a5 is a testing move, but I'll get my activity. I may lose my a pawn, although no, my bishop's there to defend. Gotta watch out for this square. He's the most fearsome piece on the black side, to me. Jumping into c3 if he thinks about going elsewhere. He's also unprotected on e2, so going to this half-open file, there might be tricks here one day. Although he's able to recapture from that point, so maybe any other piece if it's a bishop. Okay, I'm happy to see that move, actually. What about a4, looking for b5? a4, knight a6, bishop a3. If I go here right away, I'm not threatening anything, and I'm just getting in the way of tricks. What about bishop b2 and this rook here? No. I think I want to do this. This, b5, bishop a3, knight c4. a4, bishop c3, rook fc1, b5, knight c4, hitting at d6. Something like that. I don't think it was a wise decision to move this rook here. We'll see what the computer has to say, though. Am I missing anything after this move? I have the pawn breaks under control. Pretty sure. Okay. That weakens this square. I'm gonna go here. He could get the door slammed right on him. I realize that with b5, but b5 weakens c6. So I want to get my last piece working. Then this pawn break of b5 starts to become difficult. Rook f to c1 is what I'm thinking. Where are the tactics? I should really put the tactics cap on right around here, because things are livening up for sure, and could liven up even more after a b4 push. What is the knight up to? What is he up to? I should probably get on with what I wanted to do here. The bishop could play to a2, that's nothing though. Rook b2 to c2 or something. As soon as this knight moves, I'm much more inclined to do this. Are they going to play this move? Actually, on d5, I have b5, a discovered attack against the rook. This knight can't... He's once again in the way of this bishop. Well, that's interesting. Trying to trade. You're trying to trade. Could I really be a bug and try to get in like a f3 and e4? Ooh, man. Just to stop light square bishop exchange. Weakens e3. f3, bishop h6, king f2, rook e8. I have this knight move. And then an h4 move. I'm kind of tempted to do that. This square is so weakened though if I do that. Don't like weakening that. What about... Let's go with this. How about the light square bishop exchange? And this move is facilitating a b5 advance. I want to activate my bishop. And if this move is played, I think I might drop back to this square. I have this square in mind, maybe at some stage. Knight e2 here to here. He's watching over it. It's an interesting piece here. This knight on c7. Stopping this pawn break. Well, it was for a bit, but it's back on. If rook back over here, I could still think about b5, because this would be unprotected. This was probably a bit inconvenient for black, to have a major piece tethered to the defense of a pawn. I mean, it's not attacked just yet, but you might as well anticipate it being attacked. Where might I be vulnerable? I see these knights offsetting. I can anticipate it. A knight exchange. One might view my bishop as the bad bishop, but I'm not so sure how much better this bishop would be in comparison, because he's going to have some pressure here. So this was my idea to take here. I think it's a good choice. Yeah, I want to take... Or do I? Yeah, I want to take because... Hang on. Let me double check here. Yeah, I want to take because I don't want to allow the capture and pull my rook on this diagonal. I'm pretty sure I want to follow up with this push. Alright, there might be some sneaky stuff happening. b5, c5. And if takes, knight here. Could get wild. I'll let black chew on that one. I don't want to spend any more time. I need to open the diagonal for my bishop. I need to open the files for my rooks. Just a quick practical decision there. It may just be correct, but it could get complicated is what I'm getting at with this move. And a knight jumping in here on c5 takes, knight here. If I take, the bishop recaptures and gains a valuable tempo. If I could come out, like if black gets the exchange, if I could get a pawn in return, I'll be happy. Even there would be, I guess, looking a bit more long term, some possibilities to hold a position like that if we could liquidate all queenside pawns. I think, okay, so forget about that. I have no worry of that anymore. I should have been on pre-move with that. So this structure will now be there forever. And this bishop is now restricted. In fact, I don't see how he really gets activated. How could I improve my position? I'm expecting a5, but on a5 I could think about b6 with then rook b5 to challenge the knight's position. This must remain still a problem for black. I have a healthy pawn island of 5 over here, all watching over one another. He's unprotected, or not unprotected, he's isolated. Some tricks here? Is that what's being lined up? Keeping this tension. King f3 g5 might be annoying. What about h4 first? Let's go with h4, just to stop this. I'm not saying I'm doing this move just to play king f3, but maybe one day it's going to be helpful to secure a king on f3 position for at least a little bit. And if black really wants to get an h6 g5, that would open up the h file. Maybe there's something to do against the king there. Alright, so a rule reversal here. The bishop defends, so now black is ready to compete for control over this this c file, but I could take, and after the recapture I have this move, rook c6, hitting the pawn and keeping pressure on d6. I could also consider knight here, keeping pressure on d6. I'm going to be living off of the increment soon. I want to get rid of that knight. Can I get rid of him, please? What about here right away? Now let's take. And then here. Now rook c6. Let's get active. Any tactics here? Takes, rook takes, 2 pawns for the piece. I don't think it's enough. Hitting a6, keeping pressure here. I want to get rid of that knight. He's still a monster. On a5, I have rook b5. Yeah, that's important. If he goes back here, I'd really like to see that. Running in reverse, no pressure on e3 anymore. Gets in the way of the bishop. What's a more testing line? Rook c8, giving up a pawn, trying to get activated over here? That might be something. Because if I move my knight, then knight e3, rook on the second rank hits my knight, and if I move, knight takes e3, rook c8, rook takes a, rook c2, rook b2 would be needed. And then I still have pressure on this if this rook is going elsewhere. We'll see what black comes up with. About a minute advantage black has. I'm not sure what other candidate moves there are for black. I'm really just... If these rooks don't try to get active, I think I'll be able to pick up a pawn without too much problem. I want to keep pressure on the position. If I could eliminate this knight, I'd be really happy. How would we fare if this position was stripped down and I had a pawn up and it was just the bishops on board? So all my pawns are on dark squares. There might be a way for black to hold. If this pawn could somehow get to d5, the king would have to come over quick. I could play my pawn up to d5 in those type of endings, just bishops alone, anchoring a pawn on d5, controlling a light square, boxing the king out, and keeping this pawn fixed on a dark square. They are Drifting closer to my time now. What are they considering here? It's a very passive move. If I play rook takes pawn, knight c6, that's just one attack against my rook. I could play rook b3. I'm just going to snip that pawn. I don't see anything wrong with that. Get rid of their passed pawn. I'm up a pawn now. And the next phase is to get this rook up to b7. He's the only one who's not doing as much as he can. Well, no, that's not accurate. This knight could do better. Right now, he's just stupid. He's not really doing so much. All right, I don't want that rook to get active, so rook c1. Let's go with rook c1. So let's pre-move that. We're going to trade rooks. I have a more active rook. If these two rooks are exchanged, he's passive, he's active. I'll be quick to get back on a3 and get my knight to c4. With fewer pieces on the board, oh no, what did I just do? With fewer pieces on the board, this tactic against e3 becomes less likely. Okay, why'd I take that off a pre-move? So we're both going to be living off of the increment. We're both under 30. Alright, I should probably get back here right away. I don't see a better square. My idea is simply what? Let's go here. I want to stop knight b5. On rook a7, there's knight b5. Here, we exchange bishops, and then I'd want to get my knight to c5. Okay. What should I do here? Let's go here. Maybe I could get to f4. I think that would be a really good spot. Okay, let's do something else. I could get there in a different way. I have pressure on this, so pawn push doesn't work. Oh, they missed that. I just saw it at the last second, too. I have pressure on that. Can't go too far, either. I got the bishop. They're going to be resigning now, I imagine. Time pressure down. Nope. Playing on. Alright, let's keep pressure on this point here. 6. Get that knight away. Yeah, actually, why would they resign when there's still very little time on the board in the game? So let's watch out for any sneaky stuff. I just want to stay defended, and they resigned. Okay. Let me go into analysis mode here. Okay. There we go. Let's have a look and see what the computer has to say with this one. So had a Dutch. Where were there any blunders or big shifts with the evaluation? It's roughly equal up to this point. Again, there were plenty of different setups I could have been going with here. This king knight, a reason, in other words, I guess the short story, there's a reason to delay the king knight's deployment when compared to the queen knight. Many different options, f3, e2, h3 to f4, maybe even g5. So I took a while to get him going. I got this queen b3 move. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that. Computer doesn't have any issue. Yeah, nothing big is jumping up. We have this exchange. He wants to go knight g to e2 instead of knight f3. Not sure. Still about roughly equal here. I avoided the exchange. Queen c2. Nothing is popping up just yet. Still a tough fight. It's pretty dead equal up to this point here. And this is where things are heating up. Knight d5. This is the first point that I really want to look at here. Move 17. Computer suggestion is to go bishop to b2. Is there anything wrong with what I did? There's a slight shift. It likes black a little bit. Like negative 0.36. One of the suggestions was king to g7, another one is knight to b6. Knight to b6 trying to get into this square. Okay. This is what I did not like. Knight takes knight, bishop takes, and if I'm taking here, this knight, he was strong. He was strong even in the endgame when these pawns here had already advanced and there were some open files. This tends to be a bit of a nuisance here. Even now this c5 idea might be on the cards, and then jumping in here. Who knows if there's going to be forks on this e2 square. But okay, I avoid the exchange. Rook there. Still likes black. Imagine there's got to be stuff. This has turned out to be a pretty even game. Okay, it didn't like that knight move. It's liking something else, like activating the rook, but still nothing serious. I like knight c3. Okay. And now, okay, yeah, this is starting to shift, actually. These next moves, I guess it did not like bishop to d5 because of the move knight c3. And there's starting to be a pull for white. Like, more than a half pawn advantage. It's close to a pawn advantage, actually. I guess this is a strong pawn break that I now have more support, or now that I have enough support for b5, it's going to turn out to be quite strong. This bishop getting activated, both rooks getting activated, and his pawn structure is really doing a lot against black's dark square bishop. So this is where there's probably some improvement on the black side. It likes playing bishop a2, typical computer stuff. And then it says rook a1. I guess there's... Oh, now this is interesting. Even if the main intention is to play bishop here, now that's interesting, to first insert this, and then my rook has to go to one of these two, and notice he's on the same diagonal as that bishop now, and only then drop back to d5 if you really wanted to do that. It still suggests here, but maybe there's some tricks against my rook now that he's opposite the dark square bishop. So that's interesting, but bishop d5 immediately. This is where there's now a pull, and it's already having white as about a pawn and a half advantage. Yeah. Had a couple breaks, and now it's just starting to climb. With b takes, well, it says b takes a6 right away, but I wanted to stop g5. I guess I should have gone with that right away, but you can't see it, the evaluation, but it's saying that it's around +2. Because that pawn's going to fall. Yeah, it's just collapsing. So really, before we even got to this more simplified ending, there were other adjustments in that middle game. I don't know if anything else was missed. Any other tricks? These exchanges, the evaluation is just growing here, around +3. And yeah, that's collapsing here. Easy to miss that lateral movement by the rook, but that middle game position, tight one here, all the way up until this point, it's pretty even. Even at this point here, it started to be a bit critical. Knight b5 is another move, looking to jump into c3. Yeah, in fact, knight b5, this is what it suggests on the white side, to give up the light square bishop. Ugh, I would not want to do that. Not at all. This could have been a bug. Knight here, getting into c3. What would be wrong with this? Knight b6, looking at this a4 square. And if I can't get in a4, I'm going nowhere with this little bit of a minority attack on the queen side. So still, when it was just the queens basically exchanged, each of us queens gone, and just one pawn each, there are these little knight maneuvers trying to get into a4 or c4 or c3. Tight game. Real tight game, but this is where it shifted. I really liked seeing that because it was strictly defensive. But yeah, I got that b5 break in, and this is where it really started to pull ahead, only after those pawn breaks. But interesting game, as always. Hope you guys got something out of this, and feel free to share any feedback about the game in the comment section below. Take care. Bye.